The gaming industry is in the most dire state I have ever seen it in, and COVID was one of the worst things to ever happen to gaming because it saw record high profit numbers, record high player retention, and post COVID, these companies have not been able to hit the targets that they once saw and are trying to justify the rescaling that they went to support the gaming industry during the peak of COVID. Those margins are not being met and it's resulting in multiple layoffs. Now, overnight, the new Xbox CEO has announced a strategy focusing on the restructuring of Xbox. And I want to go through it a little bit today because it announces a scary reality on what the future of Xbox could look like and also how it's impacting the lives of all these staff because multiple layoffs have been happening year on year across the gaming industry. And I don't know how much more that this industry can take. Going into the tweet from the new Xbox CEO, she writes, "We are beginning the most significant restructure in Xbox history. After careful consideration, I've made the difficult decision to reduce our team by approximately 3,200 staff throughout financial year 27. This will include approximately 1,600 role eliminations today, and in addition, 4 studios will leave Xbox to new management. I recognize that a year-long restructuring creates additional challenges. Unfortunately, it is not possible to make all the necessary changes in a single day, and I wanted to be direct about the scale." She then goes on to say that she knows this is painful, but the key piece of information that I want to talk about today is she says the Xbox business is not healthy. We are operating at margins that are 3 to 10 times lower than comparable platform and publishing businesses. We entered Generation 9 with a smaller install base and higher cost structure. To grow, we bet on Game Pass, multi-platform, and a broader portfolio of content. While those businesses have created meaningful value, they did not grow at the pace we expected. As that happened, our core business weakened and we added more teams, more investment, and more time, hoping for a better outcome. And now the industry is facing this most severe hardware crisis in history. We must reset Xbox. And then she goes on to explain that she's got 3 strategies in place. The first will be a resetting of the content portfolio. The second will be a reset of their platform strategy. The third will be a reset of their operating strategy and procedures. Now, as I touched on briefly, during COVID, there was the largest influx of players throughout the gaming industry that history has ever seen. And now, all of those casuals are back to work, doing other things, and they're not playing the games. So, at one point in time, the targets were up here. They identified that there was significant growth. They scaled up the business, tried to keep the targets as high as they could, and year on year, since peak COVID, they've continually declined. And who is facing the brunt of this? 2 people. The staff, because they're getting laid off, and secondly, the consumers. And the worst part about it is, we're seeing the worst products than ever before, and it's just continually being passed on to us. Now, what do I mean by that? First of all, we're seeing the destruction of physical media. They don't want to do it anymore because clearly the profits are so low that they can't justify making physical discs anymore. So with the announcement of Sony killing physical media for all brand new games starting January 2028, I'm sure that's something that's going to be part of Xbox's strategy moving forward. The other thing is the microtransactions are going to be at scale because these games are costing more and more to produce, and they all want to have a live cycle model where all of these games are going to be live service. They want to keep players on the game for as long as possible and retain your attention so you're continually spending money. Now, perhaps this is an old school thought, but I miss when games were just set for a period of time, you got a little bit of DLC, and that was the product. I don't understand why they're making these games to be a live service game that lasts for years and years on end. A game, in my opinion, is not meant to fulfill you for the depth of time that they're trying to make you have. Back in the day, you would play a game, you might play it for a year, 6 months, and you'd be done with it. Now, they continually want to try and give you more content, more content, more content, and all of these different games are fighting for your attention instead of just being the one finished product that you can play and enjoy, and then once you're finished with it, that's it, you can move on to something else. I don't see the industry moving in that direction anymore, and it's disappointing because the overall quality of the products is suffering. If you have a game and you know that you need to make it last for 3 years, of course, the first year of content is going to be really slim because each season or each content update, you're going to be dangling the carrot for players to say, okay, this is coming soon, this is coming soon, this is coming soon. And eventually, all of the things that were meant to be in the game are going to be there 2 or 3 years later. And now players are sick and tired of this model, and it's leading to a lot of burnout. When I look at Battlefield, Call of Duty, and other first-person shooter titles, they release these games without the content features that used to be shipped in the box day one all those years ago, and promise them as live service updates because they're listening to player feedback. When has player feedback changed that these things shouldn't be implemented in the first place? I don't want to go on a rant that way, it's a little bit of a sidetrack, but them announcing that Xbox Game Pass has failed is quite an interesting thing because Xbox went so hard on Game Pass. They acquired Activision and all the new Call of Duties were on there day one. I'm sorry, but it's pretty obvious to say if you have a product where you're only paying a certain amount of money per month, obviously you're going to see high profit margins but a lower retention because people are just going to download the game, try it out, and then throw it away if they don't like it. I remember reading something from Greg Riesdorf, who was a former Sledgehammer Games developer. And he said in his article that there are no new players. And that's because after COVID, all of these players left and we're left with the same core foundation and the game industry has failed to grow. Because they're putting in all of these measures that are not creating growth. For example, why would you spend money on a title that you know you're not going to enjoy or potentially might not enjoy when you can pay for a couple months of Game Pass, try it out, and then be disloyal to that game? I want to touch on Grand Theft Auto 6 because it's a really good example of this. I've made a few videos of how Grand Theft Auto 6 is costing $130 in Australia for the base edition and $160 for the Ultimate edition. Now, I've had a lot of people in my comment section say that because it's Grand Theft Auto 6, they would be willing to pay $200 or more. And that's great if you've got the money to throw away. But I would argue, do not pass the cost onto the consumer because it's not the consumer's fault nor problem that your product has overblown its budget. Perhaps these games should be made at a scale that's more sustainable instead of blowing the budget and then shutting these games down and shutting these developers, studios down when they fail to meet the expectations that were set. So I actually think the new strategy from Xbox is a beneficial one because clearly it's operating at an unsustainable model where for every dollar spent, they're losing 60 cents on the dollar. And that's over 50% of their margin that they need to be recouping, and that's being passed on to the consumer. So it's a shame that we're seeing all of these layoffs, and we will continue to see these layoffs. But I'm wondering if it's going to be a full circle moment for the game industry where we're actually going to start heading in a more positive direction. Because the games industry needs some more growth, and it also needs to be an industry where we can all get excited for the future. Because at the moment, it's looking pretty grim. Now, if you've made it all the way to the end of this video, please let me know your thoughts on this situation down below. And I want to hear where you're watching this video from. I'm an Australian-based creator with a small content channel, and I want to keep producing good quality content that improves each time. Let me know what you think I'm doing well, what I'm not doing so well. And as always, please subscribe because every little bit of support helps me out. So I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.